Maple TA Lesson 13 homework question number 5. We're going to be working through the quantitative reasoning process with Manny. Number 1, to understand the problem, we are looking at keeping an old car versus buying a new/used one, new for him. Manny is an online student who currently owns an older car that is paid for. He drives on average 100 miles per week to commute to work. With gas prices currently at $2.85 per gallon, he is considering buying a used fuel-efficient car and wants to know if it would be a good financial decision. The old car Manny currently gets 16 miles per gallon for average fuel efficiency. It has been a great vehicle, but with its age, it needs repairs and maintenance that average $670 per year, as long as nothing serious goes wrong. He's considering buying a newer used car that will cost a total of $8,000 over a 3-year loan process. So that's already been calculated. You don't need to go through and find the total cost for this one. The used car gets 26 miles per gallon and would only require on average about $10 per month for general maintenance. To help make a decision, Manny wants to calculate the total costs for each scenario over 3 years. He decides to use the quantitative reasoning process to do this. Okay, so the first thing, we're going to identify the variables and assumptions. The first one, Manny has identified some key variables for his situation. Select the 2 variables that should be removed from his list because they do not apply to the current situation. And I think there was some confusion on this in the previous project for some of the students on the list of assumptions and variables. We want to look for things that are for this current situation. So in this situation, the cost of gas definitely affects the outcome, the variable, the price, the financial aspect of this. Manny's wages. This will also affect the financial portion. So that's the variables portion of it. The year Manny was born. That doesn't really help us in this current situation. I don't need to know that. Remember, we are looking at the 2 cars and just those 2 cars, and what will happen in the 3-year time frame. Manny's graduation date from elementary school, also not something that's going to be helpful in this current situation. The cost of repairs for the old car, that definitely affects what the outcome, the financial, the portion that we calculate, that's the variable. The number of miles Manny drives each week, that definitely affects the outcome and the cost of what's going to be looking at between the 2 cars. The loan cost of the used car, that also affects my comparison between the 2 and also the cost of the used car. Okay, the next one is Manny has also made a list of important assumptions that he will be using to make his decision. Check the boxes for the 3 assumptions from his list that are not useful for this scenario. Again, this current situation. Okay, so Manny assumes that the loan period will be for 3 years. That's a correct assumption. We already calculated it to be $8,000 for that loan period. So that's a great assumption, and we don't need to mess with that. So it's not something that we're going to be changing or looking at like the variables. This is the assumption. It's for 3 years, and that's the end. We don't need to look anymore. Manny assumes that nothing will go seriously wrong with either car during this 3-year period. Again, that's a correct assumption. We're not working in the cost of some major repair. We're just looking at the 2 cars, assuming that they're good to go, and the assumptions of miles and gas price and stuff like that. Manny assumes he will continue to go running in the mornings every weekday for the next 3 years. While this is a great assumption, it doesn't affect the current situation comparing these two, the 2 car situations. So this one is not helpful. The next one, Manny assumes gas costs will remain the same for about the same for over the 3 years. That's correct, because if that price changes or if it has a dramatic spike or increase, then that affects the overall cost. The next one, Manny assumes he will still like spinach at the end of 3 years, no matter which choice he makes. Again, while it's a great assumption, it doesn't help us in this scenario. So we're going to select that one as not being important. The next one, Manny assumes his lunches will continue to cost the same for the next 3 years. Now, while this talks about cost in here, and it does probably affect his budget. This also is not something that we're going to worry about in our calculations, and isn't something that we're going to worry about with the assumptions. We didn't talk about um, that sort of breakdown of his budget. We're just looking at the two cars, so that one's also not something that we're going to worry about in this scenario. Manny assumes he will continue to drive the same number of miles each week over this 3-year period, which is great because we're using that in our calculations. So we need that to remain about the same. Same with the amount for gas price. We're hoping that that also remains the same. And then lastly, Manny assumes that there are 52 weeks in a year, which is great. We're not going to go out to any decimal places or worry about like leap year and stuff like that. Okay, so we're going to move to number 3, apply quantitative tools. Which of the following quantitative tools would be most appropriate for Manny to use to decide whether the new car is he is looking at would cost less than his current car over the next 3 years? So we have our 4 different tools that we've learned through here. The first one, calculate costs of ownership of the 2 options using the values he has gathered for his variables. So that sounds like a function. We're going to gather and calculate values and get an output. The next one, create a scatter diagram of car price versus age to determine whether there is a better newer car option. Okay, so between these two so far, I was just going to read through them all, but let's talk about them. The first one, we have an input with our 2 options. We get an output, which will be the total cost, and we can compare them. That sounds pretty reasonable. The next one, I'm not looking at another better newer car. We're just looking at these 2 cars, and a scatter diagram, we need lots of different information for well, the two sets of information, and then combine them with lots of data points. So that one's not going to help me because I'm looking at these 2 cars. The next one, make an amortization table to determine the monthly payment and total interest for the loan. Now, thankfully, in this situation, we don't have to do that because it was given to us that over the cost of 3 years, it's already $8,000. So this one isn't good either. So oops. So we like this one. These 2 are out. So different than number 2. I apologize. I was clicking the bad ones. Okay, so then the last one, read consumer reports and find and compare the confidence intervals of the average cost of ownership of both his old and the new car. So again, this isn't really going to help us make the decision, although if that was something that he wanted to do later, I think that would be okay. But we want to, what are we going to do now is go through all of the information, give us some inputs, give us an output, and then we can make that decision. And actually, down here it kind of tells us because that's what we're going to do. Find the total cost with gas, maintenance, repairs, and purchase price for each scenario over the 3 years and round your answer to the nearest dollar. So I've given us the information over here from the scenario at the beginning. Okay, so we want to find, let's work on gas first because that one's actually going to take a little bit of calculations. So we're driving 100 miles, or he's driving 100 miles every week. And so this is going to take some unit conversion. So I think we'll bring up this. And let's insert some equations. That might be our best option here. I apologize, I'm going to cover this up over here so that we can do some calculations for a minute. So I'm going to insert an equation just because it makes it easier to show the fractions when they're like this versus with this kind of side slash when we're doing conversions. So here we have 100 miles every week, right? Okay, and we need to multiply this by some conversions over here. We know that gas is $2.85 per gallon, so we're gonna try and get rid of some things. Oh, but we don't have miles in weeks, so we need something else in here. Oh, we do have miles per gallon, so that'll help us. One way, I know I've already done that in my head, and I better explain what I'm doing here for those who didn't watch my previous videos earlier in the course. Right here, I'm gonna give me an end map of where I'm going to go. Where do I want my answer? At the end, I need to have a price here. I need to know I'm looking for money at the end of the amount. So I need price and I need time, something, whatever time frame I'm looking for. In fact, it's going to be over 3 years, right? So let's do 3 years. So I'm looking how much this is going to cost in gas over 3 years. So here I have my 100 miles per week. I need to have money over years. So this is good. It's already set up with miles over week. I can see that the time frame is down here in the bottom and I need it to end in the bottom. So this part is set up correctly with the miles per week. Now gas price, that didn't help us yet because it is dollars per gallon and I don't have anything over here that helps me out with that. So I'm going to go down to miles per gallon. That helps me, that shows me that I can get rid of miles by putting the miles on the bottom. So we're going to insert another fraction here. And I need miles down here, and that information was miles per gallon. So I'm going to flip it and do gallons per mile, and it was 16, well, I guess we'll do the old one first, 16 miles per gallon. So 1 gallon to 16 miles. And that right there shows me that my miles cancel out. Miles divided by miles is gone, and that gets me closer to dollars over years. Now the gallon doesn't cancel out, and it doesn't get me to dollars yet. So I need my next conversion here. We'll get this in, and we're going to times that. I guess I didn't put a time sign. We're timesing that by the next conversion, which is probably price now, because we have gas price is $2.85 per gallon. So I'm going to get the $2.85 on the top per gallon, so 1 gallon on the bottom, and you'll see that the gallons will cancel out and I'm left with dollars on the top, which is great. That's what I'm looking for. Gave me my roadmap to the end. However, I only have per week and I need the cost for 3 years. So I need to keep going with some conversions here. You know, we're gonna go here and see how much we've gotten rid of. The gallons have canceled. That's good. That's what we needed. Cancel out the gallons. Okay, and the miles have canceled. Oops. This miles, we have one on top and one on bottom, so they cancel. That's great. So I can quickly see I have week and I have dollar. So now I need to just go back in here and I want my equation. There we go. Get us another fraction in here for our next conversion. Okay, now this one is not given to us, so we just need to know that there were, oh, remember, 52 weeks in a year. So we're going to do that. 52 weeks, that was one of the key assumptions. 52 weeks in 1 year. So that helped right here. We can cross out our week now. 1 week, 52 weeks. I know I put an S on there, same unit though, so we can cancel that out. So now I'm closer. I have year, but I need the 3 years. So we're going to multiply this by, sorry, I have a frog in my throat. Here we go. One more fraction in here. I need to multiply that by 3. So there are 1 year and 3 years. We can do that, but you know what? Let's just do times this by 3. So we're just going to multiply this by 3 right here because that will make it 3 years. And I don't want to cancel out any of the years. I could do, I guess, 1 year over 3 years and have the years cancel, but that doesn't help. So we're just going to multiply that by a 3 so that I get it for the 3 years. Okay, so it looks like everything's good to go. And we just need to worry about all of the calculations. So we'll come over here and I have on the top 100 times 2.85 times 52. And then on the bottom we're going to divide by 16 and then multiplying it by 3 will give me my 3 years. Okay, so if you're not comfortable with that 3 hanging out here, I know that's not exactly how I did it in the previous one. So maybe we'll do per year and then times it by 3 at the end so that we can see that maybe that's a better way. it ends up being the same. I just don't like that 3 hanging out there. So I think we'll do that so that we can see that it's per year and then times it by 3 will give us the total for 3 years. I kind of like that notation better. If you were okay just to leave it in there, go ahead. Just because it didn't come out in the fraction form, so I didn't really like that. So it comes up with the same number though. So we have 100 and we want to times that by 2.85, whoops, and then times this by 52 weeks, and then we need to divide this by 16. Okay, so I'm going to just go through all of my numbers here, make sure I got them. 100, 2.85, 52, that's all on the top, and then divide by 16. Now, some of you are thinking, wait a minute, I needed to do my parentheses around this for the top. Because this is all multiplication and division, the order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, because these are all in that same step, multiply and divide, we can go ahead and just write it out. If you're not comfortable with that, you can go ahead and put parentheses around this top part and then parentheses around the bottom. And also I didn't multiply by the ones down here because 1 times 16 is 16. Okay, so we're going to get this. We have $926.25, and then we can times it by 3 there. We can times it by 3 after. It doesn't matter, but just for notation's sake, I'm going to multiply it by 3 now. And this tells me how much total, oh, I should have done this down here. This is the old car, and that's miles per gallon. So this is the cost for gas. So we're going to come up here and just notate that this is money, and this was the yearly cost in gas. I'm just going to put that here so I don't get confused about what I'm working with. 3 years in gas. And this was the yearly cost in gas. Yearly cost in gas for the old car. Okay, now we're going to do the exact same thing as we did for the old car. For the new car, oh, and I guess I should put that here. I could, you know what, let's just do cool trick. We'll copy, and I guess that was the ending value. We'll paste it in like that so that we have it in there. Okay, so now the new one, the new car, we're going to do this because all of those assumptions are the same. We have the 100 miles, the 285, the 52 weeks. The only variable here, instead of being 16 miles, is miles per gallon. We have the new car has 26 miles per gallon. So we're going to put 26 in here. And boop. There we go. And all of the units still cancel out, and so we're just going to end up with something here. In fact, because all of those are the same, I'm just going to copy this, put it down here in the new one, and I'm going to start it with miles per gallon, just to keep things kind of consistent, and take out the 16 and put in 26, and that'll give me the new yearly cost in gas, and then we need to multiply that by 3 for the cost of gas over the 3 years. There we go. So this is our 3-year cost, 3-year gas. This was the 1 year. We aren't going to use that anymore, but we'll label it just because we used it for finding things, and I don't want to look back over here and not know what I calculated. Okay, so that was the gas. I don't think we're going to need this anymore, so we're going to get it out of the way and come over here. Okay, so the next part, we need to find, we got gas. Now we need to add in maintenance and repairs, and then we'll do the purchase price. So the maintenance and repairs for the old car is $670 per year. So we need the 3-year cost for repairs. I'm going to label it here, 3-year in repairs. And this one's going to be really easy because we don't need to do any conversions. We're just going to take this cost and multiply it by 3 years because that's what we got for the yearly repair. So then here, same thing. Monthly maintenance is only going to be $10. Oh, but this is monthly. So we do need a little bit of conversion here because it's every month. So we have $10 times it by every month. 12 months in a year, and then times that by 3 years. So a little bit, not too much though, just so that we make sure that we have everything for the 3 years. And this is going to be maintenance, the 3-year maintenance. We'll just do M, maintenance. Okay, okay, so I think, do we have it? Oh, and the last thing here, there is one more on this one, which will be the cost for the 3-year loan. And I'm just gonna cell reference that. Now we aren't going to be adding in the yearly cost, but we want the total with all of these 3 things. So I'm going to do sum of these 3 items, which is gas, maintenance, and the cost of the loan. This one here, I'm going to do sum, and again I have gas and repairs, and I think that's all on this one. We didn't have a purchase price, gas, maintenance, repairs. Okay, so that one's good too. Add those together, and now I have my 2 totals here. And just for visibility's sake, I'm going to highlight these so that I can see that this is my total for both of those. So I can go forward. Actually, let's see. This was the old car. I'm going to copy this number and see if it'll paste over here. Oh, it did. Excellent. And we're going to do that on this one so I don't even have to worry about. We're going to do Control C for copy, Control V for paste, and I think we better take out the $ though. I don't think that MapleTA will read that very well, so we're going to take that out. And same with this one. Okay, so we have, and just for format's sake, I'm going to take out the comma just in case MapleTA doesn't know how to read that either. So, but I'm not going to have any mistakes on the typo of the numbers. Okay, the next one. Based on the information presented, what do you think Manny should decide? Okay, between the two, the old car and the new car over the next 3 years, Manny is going to save more money by just keeping the old car and working through the repairs. So we're going to suggest that he keep the old car. So we're going to do option number 1. The next one, evaluate your reasoning. Manny wants to be careful to avoid lack of follow-through. He plans to do this by making sure he does not have any unexpected expenses relating to owning his car. As he looks back at his reasoning, he realizes that there are a few aspects of car ownership he hadn't considered. Which 3 of the following expenses are most likely to be ones that will impact the cost of car ownership? So we're going to look for 3 of these things that are going to impact this. The first one, the cost of replacing the transmission of this make of car. Yeah, that's definitely going to impact it dramatically, especially if it's an older car. The next one, the cost of sales tax on the purchase price of the car. I think that might be included in his the $8,000 cost in the loan. So I'm going to hold off on doing that one quite so yet. The cost of income tax he will pay this year. No, not really something that's going to affect this situation. Now it might affect his budget, but we're just working in this one, so I'm not going to worry about that one. The cost of title and registration for the car, that does affect it, and it is pertinent to this information. However, it's not going to be a dramatic cost that will affect this, so I'm not going to worry about that one quite so soon, because that's not too much, and it's asking for the ones that will impact the most. And the cost of car insurance. Now, because this is a monthly payment, it's going to be a little bit more than title and registration, although that is also something he needs to take into consideration because he has to take care of that. So that's definitely going to be here. Now, I'm going to just go back between the cost of sales tax. I'm kind of thinking that that was included in the cost of the car here over the 3 years. So I'm going to choose this one, and I guess you guys will find out with me when we check at the end if we get a green check mark or not. So because this one is going to be recurring, the title and the registration, I'm going to pick this one versus the sales tax because I'm hoping that that was already included in the cost. So here we go to the next one. You guys get to see how I go go through these problems. The next one, Manny also realizes that the accuracy of his assumptions might play a role in his ability to follow through with his decision. Which three of the following assumptions have the greatest potential to limit his ability to follow through if they turn out to be false assumptions? Ooh, false assumptions. So which ones have the biggest one? Manny assumes he will continue to drive the same number of miles each week over this 3-year period. This is one of the very big variables over here. It was 100 miles per week, and that's what we went through to find the cost for gas. So that one definitely affects things. So I'm going to select that. But it is asking for the three that have the greatest, so there might be something else. So I'm just going to check it for now and see if there's anything else. Manny assumes that the loan period will be for 3 years. Yeah, that definitely will affect things. So, but I'm going to hold off a little bit and just read through the rest of these. Manny assumes that there are 52 weeks in a year. That one's not likely to change, so whether it's going to be by a fraction because he takes into account leap year or something like that, I'm not going to worry about that one. The next one, Manny assumes gas costs will remain about the same over the 3 years. This is a very good assumption because there have been some spikes with things. So that one, I'm going to say it's pretty close. So I'm going to check it for now. The next one, Manny assumes that, nothing will go seriously wrong with either car during this 3-year period. That's a very big assumption, and we talked about it up here, like the cost of replacing a transmission or having a serious maintenance or repair cost. So I'm definitely going to do that one. Okay, so these two, I'm going to keep those off because we already kind of assumed that he was going to get his 3-year loan, and that looks like we're at the end. Here we go. Here's our moment of truth, and we'll just verify that everything came out right. And it looks like I got it partially correct, so we're going to go back through that one in just a little bit. So this is something you can go back through because I made the mistake of making the assumption of replacing a transmission because we are talking about just this situation. And so these three things are things that will be reoccurring, and we can't say that the transmission is going to affect that because we might not have to. However, the sales tax, the title, registration, and car insurance are things that will be something that, because it is happening and these ones are recurring, he can't get out of. So this one, I made the assumption that he would have to replace it, and it's not one of those assumptions because it didn't say that one of these cars will need that. So these other ones, this was obviously not put into our cost over the 3 years, so that was my bad. I hope this helped work through question number 5.